Ronnie Coleman isn't doing too well these days and is currently in the hospital for a very dangerous bloodstream infection, also known as sepsis, and we recently got the word that he's finally doing better and slowly healing, but that his condition could in fact have been fatal. And because Ronnie is such a legend in the bodybuilding and strength sport world and still to this day does a lot for the community, I wanted to take a dive back in time to see what sort of unit Ronnie Coleman actually was, also outside of a powerlifting context.
Lightweight, baby! Oh! Woo! Woo! Lightweight! Yeah, buddy! Lightweight, baby! Lightweight! Woo!
Now, we've all seen his famous 800-pound squat and deadlift, but for this video, I wanted to dig just a bit deeper and see how strong prime Ronnie Coleman truly was. Both in his early powerlifting days, as a natural bodybuilder, and his peak strength while competing in the Mr. Olympia, which, if you didn't know, he is on paper the best bodybuilder of all time with 8 wins in a row. Now, Ronnie was actually a pretty late bloomer to the sport of bodybuilding, not winning his first Mr. Olympia until age 34. But being born and raised in Louisiana, it was clear that his genetic potential was already there as a young kid, according to himself. But the first decent pictures we actually have of this guy was him at 16 years old, and he honestly looks like a grown man at this point, posing a full afro and a mustache. Fun fact, after finishing high school, Ronnie actually had no interest in bodybuilding, but he still trained with heavy weights because he wanted to play football in college, and had been playing for a long time as a middle linebacker. However, Ronnie didn't want to pursue a career in sports at all, and went to get a bachelor's degree in accounting. But despite being a recent graduate, he wasn't able to land himself a job in accounting and started working at a local Domino's Pizza, where he ate pizza virtually every day because of his poor financial situation. Yes, Ronnie Coleman was at one point a local pizza delivery man with no ambition of ever competing in bodybuilding. At least that was until 1989, when he joined a local gym called Metroflex, which is today considered one of the most hardcore gyms in the US and has posted a ton of bodybuilding champions since then. Now, during this time, Ronnie also started working full-time as a police officer, where the owner actually decided to give him a free membership because he saw all the insane potential in the 25-year-old Coleman, who, mind you, had only been lifting for the fun of it up until then and barely making ends meet. He then told Ronnie that if he would let the guy train him for a bodybuilding show, then his membership in the gym would be free. And Ronnie actually accepted the offer, which was the turning point in his career of becoming the most dominant bodybuilder of all time, by winning his first ever show called the Mr. Texas in 1990, actually also beating the gym owner who also participated. Now, there aren't a whole lot of lifts recorded from Ronnie during this time, but in 1991, he actually competed in a sanctioned powerlifting meet called the Texas Deadlift Classic, where Ronnie actually pulled 695 pounds or 315 kilos, while only weighing about 240 pounds himself, or 110 kilos. But the most incredible thing about this lift and his physique is that Ronnie at the time claimed that he was 100% natural. So no steroids, no illegal substances, and considering how much bigger he would get in the peak of his career, I could actually believe this. There are of course many guys in drug-tested powerlifting federations like the IPF who have lifted more than this even at a lower body weight than Ronnie, but considering he didn't specifically train for powerlifting and that his technique was very subpar honestly, his near 700-pound deadlift was still pretty darn impressive. Now fast forward to 1992, Ronnie competed in his very first Mr. Olympia held in Helsinki, Finland, where he placed 16th, or in other words, dead last. But later that same year, at age 27, Ronnie did compete once more in powerlifting at the same Texas Deadlift Classic, deadlifting a solid 725 pounds while still only weighing around 240. However, he would stagnate at around that level until 1994, even though there is an old video of Ronnie training at Metroflex where he hit a massive 750 pounds in training, with a pretty okay level of hype. But there's also one video where he fails what appears to be 725 pounds, also in training, because of, according to Big Ron himself, that was a bad day. Now, from then up until 1998, Ronnie would put on nearly 30 pounds of body weight, and we can say that that's exclusively muscle mass, to the point that when he won his first Mr. Olympia in 1998, he weighed in at around 250 pounds on stage and entered bodybuilding into a new era. From then, Ronnie just kept on getting tremendously stronger year by year. Back in 1997, the year before he won his first Mr. Olympia, he was doing incline presses with the 140-pound dumbbells. But just 3 years later, he performed those world-famous sets with the 200s, which for the non-cheeseburger people is around 90 kilos per dumbbell, or around the same weight as 1.3 Jeff Nipperts in each arm. Still, we all remember his best lifts of an 800-pound equipped squat for 2 reps and an 800-pound deadlift also for 2 reps just a few weeks out from the Olympia. Mind you, Ronnie actually did the 800 squats after doing leg extensions, which makes it a whole lot more impressive. However, in my opinion, Ronnie's most impressive lifts weren't in the SBDs. Yes, even though he was insanely strong at squats, bench and deadlift, he didn't train those often enough to be proficient at them in my opinion. His best lift for the legs in my opinion stands between his 2,400-pound bench press, which mind you is 400 pounds more than Brian Shaw ever did in competition, and he did it for reps in training, and his 585-pound front squat for reps. Mind you, he did 4 pretty easy reps and called it a day, but it looked like the man could theoretically put on another plate. And then he repped 500 for 10 afterwards easily, a feat that most super heavyweight weightlifters wouldn't be able to replicate. And mind you, even in 2006, at age 42, Ronnie was still able to front squat 500 pounds for 10 reps, again with lots in the tank. And those who know his complete story knows that the man was in constant pain from his back and hips from his early football days. And that just makes all of his accomplishments even crazier in my opinion. The man has also military pressed 3 plates for 12, T-bar rolled 540 pounds, and he also did that iconic set of 8 reps on barbell rows, again with 5 plates on each side. The funny thing about Ronnie though is that it seems all of his maxes were done near a bodybuilding competition. While you would expect the guy to be a lot stronger during the off-season, but rumors have it that Ronnie did a lot more high rep work during his off-season and then peaked his lifts leading up to a competition, which isn't something most bodybuilders would advise since the injury rate would likely be increased in a calorie deficit, and I can promise you training at between 5 to 8% body fat isn't easy.
When I went underwater, it was -2.
But that didn't seem to faze the guy. And again, even though Ronnie probably peaked his strength around the 2000 to 2003, he was still chucking around the 190-pound dumbbells at 42 years old, just before going for his 9th Olympia win. Rumors have it that his spotter didn't actually train, he just re-racked Ronnie's weights for a full year. Jokes aside, this man is an absolute legend in the gym community, and his lifts were next level. Even legends like Brian Shaw, Eddie Hall, and Larry Wheels struggled with replicating his 200-pound incline dumbbell presses, and Ronnie always seemed to have more in the tank when he did those extreme lifts too, meaning we probably never saw anything remotely close to his true max potential as a strength athlete. Now, the guy was after all absolutely massive, supposedly peaking at around 330 pounds in the off-season, and aside from his hip and back problems, he did manage to stay relatively injury-free until his last 2 Olympias, even with all that heavy lifting. And based on that alone, you could say that his genetics were 1 in a billion. Heck, if you ever want to question if he was really natural in 1991 and 92, here's a picture of his mom. Supposedly, she didn't even lift. Anyways, I wish Ronnie a super speedy recovery, and I think that everyone in the community wants to see the big man back in action, meeting fans across the world and just having a good time. But what do you guys think? Was Ronnie the strongest bodybuilder of all time, and could he have been one of the best powerlifters of all time if he dedicated his efforts elsewhere? Let me know what you think down below in the comments, and I'll see you all next time.